Wife is the brand new book by Charlotte Mendelson, and this is why I think you should read it. And in this video, I'm also going to give you a whistle-stop tour through Charlotte Mendelson's incredible backlist. So starting with her most recent release, Wife. This is an incredibly page-turning and compelling book. It tells the story of a breakdown of a marriage. Our main character is a woman called Zoe, and this book jumps back and forth in time. In the present day, Zoe is in the middle of a really terrible breakup from her wife, Penny. In the past, we see Zoe meeting Penny for the first time and falling in love with her and being absolutely captivated by this older, glamorous lesbian who she just can't believe has deigned to want her and choose her. The cover is very fitting because, of course, Zoe is seeing Penny through rose-tinted glasses, but we, the reader, can see that Penny, right from the beginning, is pretty awful. And so it is no surprise that she is being terrible about their breakup. In the present day, we watch Zoe fighting this bitter custody battle with Penny for where their two daughters are going to live. And it's made even more complicated by the fact there are actually 4 parent figures in this relationship. So Zoe and Penny are, of course, the 2 mothers to their 2 girls, but the sperm donor is also an active figure in their life as their father, and a 4th person, I'm not going to tell you who it is, because as I was reading this book, once I realised exactly what was going to happen and what dynamics were going to evolve, my jaw dropped, and so I do not want to spoil that for you. So we watch Zoe in this agonising group therapy session trying to battle out the best thing to do for the girls, though nobody other than Zoe seems to actually have the girls' best interests at heart. And we also watch her trying to pack up and get out of their house before Penny can come home and try to stop her. But what could be a sort of escape thriller, it's a very, very tense, very uncomfortable situation, is turned into something else, something deeply enjoyable and voyeuristic to read because of Charlotte Mendelson's trademark wit. She is a very, very funny writer, and that meshes so well and so kind of counterintuitively with the way that another thing that I would say is a trademark of Charlotte Mendelson is writing these absolutely monstrous characters. In Wife, Penny is the monstrous character. She is completely vile, and that causes these incredibly claustrophobic and unpleasant situations. But the book is a joy to read because of Charlotte Mendelson's writing. Although it is, of course, also very uncomfortable and very tense and stressful to read. I was tearing through the book, shouting at the pages, feeling all like hot under the collar, just wanted Zoe to get safely out of there. The book is getting rave reviews, and I really recommend that you pick it up and see what all of the hype is about. It's such a good portrayal of a villainous character, but you can really see why Penny has such a hold over Zoe. It really tells the story of how easily we can be sucked in by these incredibly powerful, incredibly charismatic people, and how difficult a situation you can end up in when you realise something that you should have stood up to right at the beginning, you've been sucked down this whole path. Very stressful. Get out of there, Zoe. And Charlotte Mendelson has been incredible at writing these kinds of family dramas right from the start. So let's go through her backlist. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Her first novel was called Love in Idleness. Love in Idleness is a coming-of-age story about a woman discovering her sexuality. And as with a lot of stories about people discovering their queerness for the first time, she becomes completely fixated on the object of her passion. That's a fairly relatable experience. What's unusual in this book is that the object of her passion is in fact her aunt. So right from the start of her career, you could really see what a witty writer Charlotte Mendelson was, and how she has the knack for taking these sticky, uncomfortable situations and turning them into something joyous to read about. She's also always very good writing about characters discovering their sexuality for the first time. You see that in slightly different ways as a theme through a lot of her books. And she's talked about that very interestingly in her own life as well, saying that, in her words, she became a lesbian very suddenly after not a whiff of lesbianism, not even a thought. So she's very all or nothing, it was all that, and now it's all this. And so I think that has really spurred a lot of really interesting characters and a lot of very interesting journeys that she's written about in her books. With her second novel, Daughters of Jerusalem, Charlotte Mendelson won both the John Llewellyn Rhys Prize and the Somerset Maugham Prize. Very cool. This one is about a dysfunctional family. The book is set in Oxford, and it's about a woman called Jean, who is the wife of an academic, and her best friend Helena has just announced that she is in love with her. Meanwhile, Jean's two daughters are completely at each other's throats all the time. I always go to Charlotte Mendelson when I'm in the mood for a dysfunctional family novel. It's a subgenre that a lot of us love to read about, and she is the queen of it, and this is a prime example of that. When We Were Bad was shortlisted for the Women's Prize. This one is about a female rabbi and her, yes, dysfunctional family. So her son has just jilted his bride at the altar, and the family's perfect image is beginning to crumble. Meanwhile, her daughter is questioning her own marriage and wondering if she is actually attracted to women. Almost English was Booker longlisted, pretty incredible. This one is about 16-year-old Marina, who escapes her Hungarian family and goes to a very old-fashioned traditional English boarding school and realises that she has absolutely no idea how to fit in. Meanwhile, back at home, her mother is so wrapped up in her own disappointing life that she doesn't realise how desperately Marina is in need of an intervention. Another Women's Prize nomination here, The Exhibitionist, is the novel that contains, I would say, another of Charlotte Mendelson's greatest villains, Ray Hanrahan, who is the narcissistic patriarch of the Hanrahan family. He is an artist who believes himself to be a great artist, constantly being held back by his wife and children, despite the fact that his wife is probably actually a much better artist than him, but she is actually tempering her own success to avoid angering him. Meanwhile, she is also having an affair with a female politician. The novel takes place over the course of a few days in the build-up to an exhibition being put on of Ray's art, and we meet the different characters in the family, all with secrets of their own, and we watch the tension bubbling up in this family, ready to burst into disaster. Yes, another dysfunctional family masterpiece. And the paperbacks for all four of these, by the way, look so good together, all with their family houses on the front, with many secrets contained within these walls. It's such a good collectible set. And that brings us up to her latest, Wife, which I've already talked about, which takes all of those ingredients that make a great Charlotte Mendelson novel and elevates them all one step further into what I would say is her best book yet. Charlotte Mendelson has also written a non-fiction book, Rhapsody in Green, which is a memoir about her own obsessive curation of her tiny vegetable garden. Also very, very funny. So I really recommend that. Honestly, whether you have green fingers or whether you are like me and struggle to even keep a houseplant alive. So that was my whistle-stop tour through Charlotte Mendelson's bibliography, and I would love to know in the comments below whether you've read any of her books before, or if this is your first time hearing about her, which of these books are you most likely to pick up next? And I will link here to a playlist of all of the other authors who I've done this kind of deep dive for. So do click through and have a browse, and I'll see you in the next video that you watch.